Hello everyone, welcome back to the third lesson in module 2. This lesson is to test for parallelograms. This is continuation of lesson 2. We dealt with parallelograms. Now we will have different cases and prove whether or not they are parallelograms. Here the learning objectives to use the test for parallelogram to determine whether quadrilaterals are parallelograms. Now test for parallelogram basically is used by these four main formulas or conditions or theorems. So now this is not formula, sorry, these are conditions or theorems. If both pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Let me just draw a parallelogram. It doesn't seem like it, but just imagine this is a parallelogram. Whenever opposite sides, now this and these two are equal, if they are congruent, then you can directly say it's a parallelogram, even if you do not know whether it's parallel or no. Next, if both the opposite angles, can you see this angle and this over here and this over here, if they are congruent, then again it's a parallelogram. That's what the second statement says. Third statement says if the diagonals bisect, in the sense they are cutting each other equally. If this length is 10, they cut equally as phi and phi, or over here if this is 20, 10 and 10. They must cut equally and they must meet at a midpoint, same midpoint, then they are parallelogram. Then that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. And last one, if one pair of opposite sides is of a quadrilateral is both parallel and congruent. Now this is very important. Now imagine this and this. If I know this is parallel to each other, they are absolutely parallel and they are congruent in the sense same distance, then also this is a parallelogram. Why? Because if these two are equal and parallel, then we can find these two, the slope of these will be also same. That means they are parallel and the length is also same. So we will solve, we will do various tests now in different type of problems. Here, look at this problem. It is very, very straightforward because they have told to determine whether the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Now, yes, looking at this, you should tell yes, this is a parallelogram because the first theorem over here stated that same thing. If both the opposite sides, see over here, both pair, in the sense this and this are congruent, that means it's equal, then yes, it is a parallelogram. So yes, this is a parallelogram. If both the pairs of opposite sides are congruent, then the quadrilateral must and should be a parallelogram. Okay, so this is your answer, yes, and this is the reason for this being a parallelogram. Now this is to solve, again, easy problems. The top of the eraser appears to be a parallelogram. Find the values of x and y so that the side of the eraser is a parallelogram. Now what they have told is, they have told this side appears to be a parallelogram, so they have already mentioned it. Now they don't want you to prove this is a parallelogram because they have already told it, but what do they want? They want you to find the x value and y value, this y values, provided this is a parallelogram. So now if we know this is a parallelogram, then we know the opposite sides, which are color coded, are equal. So now over here we can just equate these both. See, this and this can be equated to each other. We know because it's a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal. So 56 must be equal to 7x. Now just divide both the sides by 7. You will get, or take the 7 to the other side. It will be 56 divided by 7. That is equal to x. Now here we have 8, right? 7 5 is 35. 6. It is not 8. Sometimes my brain freezes, and this is one of the moment where my brain has just been numb. I just can't calculate this for some reason. I don't know why, but let me go through it. 7 5 is 35, 6 is 42, 7 is 49, 8 is 56. Okay, somehow it came. Okay, it's 8. Answer is 8 equals x. Now this is the answer. Uh, X is 8. And now what about y? Now let us solve for y. Here we need to equate these both. So it is 4y plus 4 equals 5y minus 26. All you need to do is solve for y. Here greater y is at 5 and this is 4. So take this 4 to the other side. Always when it's bigger value of the variable, wherever it's bigger, stays at that side and the smaller moves. Whereas in the number here, all at one side. So minus 26 to the other side becomes 26 positive 26 plus 4 equals 5y minus 4y. I've just moved this over here and this over here. Now solve it. 26 plus 4 is 30 equals y. Now this is the answer for y and this is the answer for x. So that is it. Now over here you can just put this in calculator directly, using alpha and x, and you will get the answer. You can solve the variables, but you can do this as well. So the values of x over here was 8 and y was 30. So that's the answers. Okay. Now do pause the video and please solve these by yourselves. Let us try now. I hope you have tried. Here they have told the mosaic pattern of the floor is made up of different tiles. Find the values of x and y so that the tile is a parallelogram. So they have told it is a parallelogram. Now here this and this over here are equal, and this line and this line are equal. So you just have to equate them directly. However, now I'll just directly find y first. 4y minus 9 will be equal to 2y plus 5. Now take the y to the other side. It will be 4y minus 2y equals 5 plus 9. Y when it goes to the other side becomes plus. Now this side will be 2y equals 9 plus 5 is 14. Y equals 7. That's the answer. Y is 7. What about the x value? Same way, equate each other. 3x plus 4 equals 5x minus 2. Let me just make this clear. Okay, that's not z, it's equal to. And now leave this 5 here, take this 3 to the other side and 2 to the other side. It becomes plus 2 plus 4 equals 5x minus 3x. Now simplify this, it will become 6 here equals 2x. X equals 3. When you take 2 to the other side, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And this is the answer. So we get x value of 3 and y value of 7. Now this is not over. They have told something else. Select the theorem you use to find the values of x and y. What would we solve over here? The sides, both the sides are congruent, right? So you just see where is side. Both the pair of opposite sides are congruent. Then the quadrilateral is parallelogram. This is the parallelogram symbol. This is congruent symbol. The first one. Now let's read through the other options. Both the pair of opposite angles. Is the angles mentioned? Not at all. If diagonal bisects each other, do we know the diagonal? No. One pair of opposite side is congruent and parallel. No, we don't know whether only one side. We have both the sides. So that's it. Both are congruent. That's how we found out the first option. Now we here determine whether quadrilateral FGHJ is a parallelogram. Justify your answer using the midpoint formula. We have to see whether this is a parallelogram. In fact, today in my school, Alaruba school, I was teaching my students, and one of my student, Musabba, so he told how to solve this directly. Now, I mean, he didn't solve anything. He just counted the slope, and he told us, look over here. It's 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whereas over here it's just 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The slopes are different, so no, it is not a parallelogram. So that's it. Yes, absolutely, he was right. And I mentioned to him that I'll tell it in the video because I'll be recording it today. So I mentioned it. But now here, since they have mentioned midpoint formula, let's do this. If it was direct question, yes or no, you can just tell no directly. And tell why? Because you can say they are not congruent, they're not parallel. This is not parallel exactly. So that is the thing. But over here, since they have mentioned midpoint formula, I'll do the midpoint formula. And if it comes for writing, say it comes for writing, you can use the midpoint formula and solve. And this method is important because, you know, you can solve any problems like that. And before anything, just look at the diagram, observe it, and then, just solve it up. Now here, midpoint formula is a way I'll write it out. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, that's for the x coordinate, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now this is not the distance formula. You might remember the distance formula many times because that's something you have already studied many times. You have used it many times. That is this one, x2 minus x1 the whole square plus y2 minus y1 the whole square. This is the distance. If you want to find the distance between these 2 points, use this formula. But if you want to find the midpoint of this line, then you need to use this formula here. Now, what do we do? What they have mentioned midpoint. Midpoint deals with diagonal. So let's see over here. The diagonal, you can see this diagonal and this diagonal, right? The two diagonals must intersect and bisect each other. So what we will do is, we will consider these points now. Say for example, this point here, what is the coordinates? X is -1, -2. X will be -2. What is the y value? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's at 4, right? This is 4. This is -2. So x value is -2, y is 4. Now, what is the other diagonal over here, this point over here? What is the coordinates? 1, 2, 3, 4. X value is 4. Y value is -2. Always remember it's x comma y. Okay? X comma y. Now here, what I can do is I can just take this as x1, y1. If I take this x1, this must be y1. This is x2, y2. Now I'll apply in the formula. I have x1 value of -2 plus, what is the x2 value? It's 4 divided by 2, comma, y1, 4 plus -2 divided by 2. 4 plus -2 divided by 2. Now what do you do? Here, -2 plus 4 is 2 divided by 2, comma, 4 minus 2 is again 2 divided by 2. The answer is 1, comma, 1. These are the coordinates. So the midpoint of this diagonal, the diagonal from F to H, is at 1, comma, 1. Now we will find the midpoint at these 2 points, J and G. So it is at -2, comma, -1. Why? Because it is y of -1. This is at -1 and -2x. Here x value is 4, comma, y value is 2. Now let's put the same midpoint formula. I'll write it. x1, y1, x2, y2. All you need to do is the substitution now. It would be -2 plus 4 divided by 2, comma, -1, comma, 2 divided by 2. Let me just double check it. -2 plus 4 divided by 2, -1 plus, okay, this is plus 2 divided by 2. Just double check your substitutions, because sometimes, you substitute it wrong and then your answer will be wrong. So, so be careful. Here, -2 plus 4 is 2, comma, divided by 2. And what about this? It's -1 plus 2. That is 1 over here. 1 divided by 2. The answer is 1, comma, half is 0.5, isn't it? Now compare the midpoints. If the diagonals were to bisect, which a parallelogram should, the parallelograms diagonals will bisect each other. But look at the midpoints. They should meet, right? If it was a proper parallelogram, now this is a triangle, it's also a parallelogram. Now that is very bad diagonals which I drew over there, but let me just improve it a bit. Now this would be at the midpoint of this line and this diagonal. Both the diagonals midpoint must intersect. But here you can see the midpoints. One midpoint may be at, it's 1 comma 1 at this point, and one more is at 1 comma 0.5. Does not touch each other. So the diagonals don't intersect each other. They go at different locations. They are not parallelogram. Why? Because the diagonals are different. So here you can see by midpoint formula you find the diagonals. Over here they first found G and J diagonal. It's 1 comma half, that is 0.5, and now next one is 1 comma 1. Here this is not, FGHJ is not a parallelogram. Why? Because they are not bisecting each other. So this is it. Now here is another problem. You can try this by yourselves. Please do pause the video and try. Now here they have not mentioned any method. You can just see, tell the slope over here. Rise over run. Rise is -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is fine. These two lines. What about the other two lines? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. How about here? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yes, I can definitely say this is a parallelogram because the slope, they are both parallel. The slopes are equal. Now, what if the slopes are same? If the slopes of the two lines, of all the four lines are equal, then it's parallel, because parallelogram definition itself is that the opposite sides are parallel, right? If slopes are same, then it is parallel. So yeah, so that's one way to do it. Otherwise you can use the midpoint formula. It's up to you. You can use the midpoint over here, 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 and here, and solve it up. What would be the midpoint? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is 3 comma 3. Here it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 comma 2. Here it would be 1 comma 0, and lastly we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and -1, 6 comma -1. Now here see the opposite, it's diagonals. Don't take two consecutive lines. You can, but you need to find the distance. You can do it by distance formula. Find the distance of those and you can tell, yes, they are equal distance, all the four lines. That's possible. How? Find the distance between these 2 points, AD and BC. All the four sides distance, opposite side should match. That is possible. But let's do midpoint. Why? Because it's easier and it's less steps compared to distance. Now let's do midpoint. x1 plus, that's x1 plus x2 by 2 and y1 plus y2 by 2. Okay, here what happens? X1 is now first let me do A and C. Okay, 3 plus 6 divided by 2 comma 3 minus 1 plus divided by 2. It's plus minus 1. It will become plus and minus becomes minus, so I directly wrote this -1. Okay, now here the answer is 6 plus 3 would be 9 by 2, that is 4.5, comma here it would be 2 by 2, 3 minus 1 is 2, so 4.5 is the x value, y value would be 1. Okay, now this is reasonable. The diagonal somewhere in the midpoint, yes, 1. How about 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5? Yeah, it seems reasonable. Now let's do the other one, other diagonal. That would be over here, B and D. Let me take this as x1, x2. 1 plus 8 by 2. What about the other thing? It is 0 plus 2 by 2. Let's add 9 by 2, comma 2 by 2. And here you get 4.5. And this is 1. And now this would mean they are same. Why? They're intersecting at the same point, right? Now when I draw this diagonal, yes, they will touch at the same point and they will bisect each other. That means the distance from here to here and here to here are equal. So this is how we solve this problems, and we identify whether or not they are parallelograms. Okay, you can use distance formula also. This is yes, answer is yes, they are parallelograms because it's equal, and both pair of opposite sides can be found out to be congruent by distance formula. You can try this by yourself, just takes a long time. That's basically the end. Now here we have a proof, in the sense like a theorem which we can prove. I will just run through this because these sort of proofs generally don't show up in exam. Now, over here, what they have asked is write a coordinate proof for the following statement. If one pair of opposite sides of the quadrilateral is both parallel and congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. This was one of the condition. Now here, let's look at the figure. Now imagine you draw a parallelogram. I mean, just draw two sides. Consider this and this. Draw a line, if this is 0, 0, say at phi, x of phi, comma 0, you will draw one more point. This a is any distance. It can be any constant distance. Imagine it's phi. Then, if we draw two lines like this and we know one pair of opposite side, if this is there, then we know the opposite side also is parallel and congruent, right? So at a certain distance, we don't know this angle, at a certain distance, that is consider B point. Now over here, just for understanding purpose, I'll consider this to be 2. Okay, and this I'm not sure, but let me take it as say 4. Okay, x value after a certain distance over here, see, sorry, this distance, that is 2. Okay, x value of 2, it's more than 2, but just for understanding, and y value, consider this to be 4. We draw one more point, and then if we know this point, we know these both opposite sides are one of the, at least we know is opposite is parallel and congruent. So now if this is 2 and 4, the next point must be equal distance, right? Equal distance in the sense you should add 2 plus 5. So b plus a means this b plus a. Here 2 plus 5 would be 7. And what about this last one? If it is congruent, parallel, then the slope is same. That means the y coordinate is the same. It will be 4 itself. Okay. So this is the AB and DC line. We just made sure this line and this line are congruent and equal. But we don't know about this. Okay. Now what you can do is find the slope. Find the slope between this point and this point and this point and this point. What if the slope is same? If the slope at this point and this point both are same, then we can conclude they are parallel. Why? Because if the slopes are same, they are parallel lines. Okay, that is what you're doing. Here in different ways you can prove it, but I'll just do it over here. Since this figure is being taken as A, B, C, they are getting the final answer of the slope as C by D. But let us now over here use the slope formula and do it. I will use the slope formula, that is m, I'll write it over here, m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now first let me take A and D, sorry, this and this. Let me change the color. Yeah, this and this over here. So x, let me take this as x1, y1. This will be x2, y2. Now substitute in the slope formula. M will be equal to y2, 4 minus 0 divided by x2 is 2 minus 0. What is the answer? It's 4 by 2, or that is equal to 2. 4 by 2 is 2. Okay. What about the next 2 points over here and over here? Same thing, x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's do it. M equals y2 is 4 minus 0 divided by 7 minus 5. That is equal to 4. 4 minus 0 is 4. 7 minus 5 is 2. And now you get again 2. So you can see these two answers are same. The slopes are same. Slopes are same. Then they are parallel lines. And then this and this is parallel. This is parallel, and then this and this is parallel. Then all the opposite sides are parallel. So it's a parallelogram. That is how we can prove it. Okay, this is just a proving problem. Over here they have not used numbers. I just use numbers so you understand better. Yeah, that's it. You can use anyhow, you'll get the same answer. And that is the end of this lesson. I hope it has been useful. Make sure you solve more problems. Just be careful with the midpoint formula. Don't get confused with the distance formula. Just be sure you remember the opposite sides, the opposite angles. Take the coordinates properly. Just few things, because it's a very easy lesson. Just be careful when you solve it. Don't be in a hurry. Just take the points carefully. That's it. That's it for this video. I will see you all in the next video. Until then, bye bye.